The Bogota special event has concluded in typical special event fashion. It was not without controversy. In today's video, we're going over the top 8 lists and what all went down in Colombia. Before we get into the first top 8 list, I have to put a caveat here that this Gardevoir list by Eric Hernandez actually did not play a single game in top 8. Adair made it all the way to the finals, and I believe in top 4 it was noticed on stream that he was not only stacking his own deck, but his opponent's deck as well. I will link Azul's video in the description below. It has a pretty in-depth look at what happened, so definitely pretty frustrating to see it happen. It's actually not the first time Adair has been disqualified from a special event, believe it or not. So hopefully he will get banned, and we won't be talking about his name in this community ever again. But enough of that. This is Eric Hernandez's top 8 Gardevoir list. It's definitely a bit different than some of the other Guardians we've seen. He's playing the Mirage Step Curlia, which I'm personally not a big fan of. I just feel like most time it's like when it makes the most sense, the game's already going pretty well for you. Like your opponent's set up slow, and you have time to go for that Mirage Step. I don't know, I've never really found it terribly useful in my own playing. And also, 2 Cresselias does seem a bit excessive to me. It is nice in the single prize matchups. It's nice to snipe down some of those weaker Pokemon on your opponent's bench. But I don't know about having 2 of them alongside Miriam. It seems a bit overkill to me. But No Sky Steelson also is a bit interesting, and also no way to move around a Pokemon if it were to get Gust and trapped by Mawile, which would be an interesting trend to see if it continues, because then we might see Mawile creep back into the meta, but a bit unfortunate. It would be interesting to see how far Eric would have gotten if the cheater would have gotten DQ'd before top 8, but anyway, it's still a very solid performance with Gardevoir EX. The 7th place player was playing Lost Sandbox, and this is actually the exact same 60 Grant Manley top forward the Portland Regional Championships with, so definitely a very proven, just very solid 60 to go off of. Probably one of the best lists out there for Lost Box. I don't have a whole lot to add because I've already sort of talked about this list before. It's kind of weird that this isn't really a true turbo deck with it's playing the Forest Seal Stones with only 1 vacuum. It's I feel like it's trying to be sort of balanced, trying to find a fine line between turbo and Kyogre and just Cramorant, classic Lost Box. So I feel like this is definitely one of the best current builds of Lost Box, and it just proved it once again with a solid performance in Colombia. The 6th place list was this Arceus Goodra Dragonite deck. Huge props to Jonathan Castillo for taking this deck all the way to the top 8. We've seen Arceus Goodra succeed in the past, but we've never really seen it at all post-rotation, so definitely a pretty cool way to play the deck. As a Goodra player, I just sort of don't really know how this is better than Goodra Lost Box. You probably are going to be more consistently getting turn 3 Rolling Iron, but I just feel like Goodra, as it is just all around a pretty solid card. You have to then skip out on having a Radiant Greninja, and I feel like one of the perks being an Arceus deck right now is that you're a Judge Path deck, and this is not a Judge Path list with only 1 Judge and 1 Path to the Peak. So I'm sort of struggling to realize what separates this deck from classic Goodra. I get Dragonite is a pretty cool card. It's just being able to one-shot opposing V-Stars is definitely appealing, but other than Dragonite, what is really the point of playing this build of the deck? And if you have a certain opinion, let me know in the comments, because I'm just not seeing it. It's still, I think, pretty impressive to have such a deep run with a sort of rogue deck, but anyway, I'd love to see the Goo do well, and I'm also just a rogue deck enjoyer, so it's just nice to see something a little bit different make the top 8. Our final quarterfinalist was Connor Finton using this Lugia V-Star single strike deck. The Urshifu has definitely appeared to become pretty standard in the deck now. Gives you pretty much an auto win into those Duraludon matchups. In my tech card video a while back, I did mention Thornton and Urshifu, so pretty funny to see both those cards actually popping up in these high-performing lists. I still think 2 Lumineon is the way to go in terms of raw consistency in Lugia decks. We are seeing Stonjourner come back into list. Previously, it started out in the list, going into UIC, then came out, and then it seems to be back again. Is nice into the Miraidon matchup into Arceus deck, so sort of just seems like what your expected metagame is. Other than that, nothing too crazy about this list. 3 double turbo energies, your usual 4 Roma, 2 Nest Ball. Playing the Mesagoza Club Stadium split, which I feel like makes a lot of sense. Mesagoza is just a bit too unreliable to be playing a super heavy count of. But yeah, Connor Finton definitely is one of the best Lugia players, and nice to see him do well once again with Lugia. Our first quarterfinalist ran Mew VMAX, and this actually, oddly enough, has two of those tech cards I talked about once again, the Avery and the Cleansing Gloves. It just seems that, I mean, of course, Mew is always going to be Mew, and it just seems to be pretty good all the time. Like, Judge Path is just simply one of the strongest, like, I would say, like, just great equalizers in the game. Like, even if you're not setting up well, your opponent set up strong, Judge Path always seems to find a way, and Mew can just consistently spam that at you, and usually it is enough to win you, like, just steal you games at times. We do see an Arven in this deck, which I actually really like in Mew VMAX list, because it can basically serve as a computer search at times, being that for a Sealstone, but also if you need to fish out that, like, one of Cleansing Gloves or two of Belts, it's just such a pretty nice card. Like, it also can find Ultra Balls to clear out your hand, Power Tablet for the damage boost, like one of your switching cards. It just seems like an all-around pretty great card in the deck, and just being a Mew deck and having all those Fusion Strike systems to fill up your hand over and over again, I don't think you're too bothered by not actually drawing cards. So I think Arven's pretty cool. I'll start experimenting with it in my own Mew VMAX decks, but it's just like pretty much the Mew control Mew deck we've come to know and love lately, and it just it seems to continue to keep performing well at these big tournaments. Third place was taken by Gabriel Smart, running Lugia V-Star, and this is very similar to the list that we saw Connor run. Really the only card that I do not see are that Impact Energy and Thornton, and those seems to be another Collapse Stadium. We do see a Pumpaboo in this list, and there is no Stonejourner. So yeah, I mean, Lugia just seems to be, I think in my opinion, it is the best deck in format. It's just so consistent. It has such a high power level once it gets going. And I don't really think it takes like any really bad matchups either. Like, especially with the Urshifu coming into lists. I think that you're good into Duraludon, so it's like I think the best way to beat Lugia is like Judge Path Prey, which doesn't really seem like it's not like sometimes it'll work and you'll pick up your cards fairly quickly as Lugia, and other times you're just gonna draw out of it. And it's not gonna work. So I feel like it's always kind of funny when I have to beat the deck by just like hoping that you luck out and beat them off a Judge or hand disruption. But Lugia, just even after rotation, it's still one of the very best decks in formats. Second place was taken by Jonathan Torres, playing this Giratina V-Star deck. And it'd be interesting to see if Jonathan would have been able to take the event down had he not faced Adair in top 4, who, of course, cheated that all throughout that set. So unfortunate to see, but it is sort of a breath of fresh air to see a Giratina V-Star do well. It definitely was one of the most hyped up decks coming out of rotation. Like, it was seemingly everyone's BDIF, it or Gardevoir, and I would say it's definitely come up short to those lofty expectations. But I think it's still a decent deck. I wouldn't necessarily pick it over some other builds of Lost Zone Bach, but there is still merit, of course, that Lost Impact being able to one-shot any of the V-Stars in the game, Star Requiem being able to one-shot anything, I think is still a big appeal. You have one of the best Mew matchups. You can sort of play admirably into single prizers. You're still not as good as like more conventional Lost Zone builds, but you're still okay. And is okay good enough in this format? I don't really know. I mean, taking second place in a special event means Giratina is no slouch, but it still definitely is one of the biggest question marks in format. Like, how actually good is Giratina? And finally, Lost Zone Box took down this event, and it was piloted by Andrew Hedrick, who continues to build on just one of the greatest seasons in recent memory. Already has 2 regional wins under his belt before taking down this special event. So this is actually the exact same 60 Calvin Connor ran at the Portland Regional Championships alongside a few other players, and Andrew just decided to run it back, and it seemed to work out pretty well for him. Like, this is a turbo build with the Lost Vacuums, the Sealstones, the Dragonites, Raikou, Drapion. I think you're just pretty solid into just about everything. Having the Skyseal Drapion for the Mew matchup, Skyseal Raikou for the Lugia matchup, just having Hawlucha for the mirrors. So I think that this particular specialized build definitely worked out for the meta that ended up playing out. So nice to see Andrew taking down another event and build on just a truly spectacular season he has been having. But I want to know what you guys think of what went down in Bogota. Were you surprised? Were you upset by all the all the cheating that occurred. Let me know in the comment section down below, and I appreciate you guys watching all the way through the end of this video. And if you enjoy this kind of content, please consider liking, subscribing, all that fun stuff. It supports me so much, helps me out with the good old algorithm, and I hope you guys have a great rest of your day. And this has been Alloutblitzle, and I'll catch you in the next one.